I never expected my life to change because of a sticky note, especially not one written in neat, dark blue ink and stuck to a brown paper bag of overpriced gluten-free pasta and a bottle of Syrah. But there it was, right on top of the groceries, pinned gently between a bunch of kale and a pint of oat milk ice cream. Thank you. Really? No name. No explanation. Just those 2 words and the kind of handwriting that looked like it belonged to someone who'd won a debate tournament and never once tripped over a sidewalk crack. It was the 3rd delivery I'd made to Unit 5C that month. 5th if you counted the time someone else packed the order, and I still got sent to that building. I didn't recognize the name on the receipt, J. Harper, but I knew the apartment. The big one on the corner of the 5th floor with the black door, the gold-plated numbers, and the welcome mat that said don't talk to me until I've had my first espresso. The mat lied, apparently, because someone inside that apartment was talking to me now. Or writing to me. Which was worse, because I couldn't stop thinking about it. My name's Rowan. I'm 23, broke, and spend most of my days lugging organic lemons and obscure brand waters up too many flights of stairs for too little money. I don't complain, not out loud anyway. It's work. It's mine. And most people don't even look me in the eye when I hand over their bags. They just tap their phone, give a distracted thanks, and disappear back into their perfect, quiet, well-lit lives. But 5C didn't do that. She, because I was almost sure now it was a she, wrote thank you notes. Who does that? I didn't mean to look her up. Okay, I did. After the 2nd note, thanks for the extra care with the eggs. You have no idea how much I needed that today. I couldn't help myself. I remembered her name. J. Harper. I dug through the client registry on the delivery app and checked the notes section. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, try clicking the thanks button below. It's the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you. Nothing too personal. But the building was full of lawyers, and Harper sounded like the kind of last name that belonged on a silver plaque somewhere. So I Googled it. What else was I supposed to do? Not get obsessed with the mysterious, polite, apparently gorgeous woman writing me post-it confessions? A photo popped up. LinkedIn, of course. Julia Harper. Corporate attorney. Mid-30s. Brown hair pulled into a sharp bun, tailored suits, a jawline that could cut glass, and a mouth that didn't smile in any of the photos. But I didn't care. She was stunning. Unreachable. The kind of woman who probably owned 4 different kinds of wine glasses and had a standing Pilates appointment. I should have let it go. Should have told myself it was just kindness, just civility in a cold world. But when I delivered her groceries again the next week, there was another note. You make the bags less heavy somehow. Hope today isn't too rough. I stood in the hallway for a full minute after reading it, the cold from the floor tiles seeping through my shoes, the heat in my chest coiling tighter than it should have. I didn't know this woman. I'd never even seen her face. But she saw me, and that felt dangerous, addictive. So I did something I never did. I wrote back. Just a tiny reply, scribbled on a receipt I folded into the side pocket of the next delivery. My days are always better when I see your handwriting. I didn't expect an answer. I definitely didn't expect what happened next. Because the next time I knocked on the door of 5C, it opened. Not all the way. Just enough. And there she was. Julia Harper. In the flesh. In a silky navy blouse tucked into black pants that looked criminally good on her, barefoot, holding a glass of white wine and staring at me like she wasn't sure if I was real. You wrote back, she said, her voice low and velvet smooth. I swallowed. You started it. She smiled. Just barely. But it lit her whole face. I'm glad I did. I stood there frozen, one hand still gripping the grocery bag like a lifeline. She took a step forward, her fingers brushing mine as she accepted it. Thank you. For carrying it all the way up here. For writing back. For being kind. You've got that backwards, I said, unable to help the way my voice softened. You're the kind one. She hesitated, then said, Would you like to come in for a minute? I promise I'm not a serial killer. Is that what all serial killers say? Only the charming ones. I shouldn't have said yes. There were rules, policies, boundaries. But her eyes were warm and tired and a little lonely, and mine were too. So I stepped inside. And I knew right then, in that softly lit apartment smelling faintly of lemon and wine and whatever perfume she wore, that nothing about my life was going to be the same again. Her apartment smelled like citrus and clean linen, with a faint trace of something floral I couldn't place. Everything was tidy, minimal, modern, but lived in a way that surprised me. A soft cardigan was draped over the back of the couch, a half-read book face down on the armrest. There was music playing faintly somewhere, piano, slow and wandering. Julia Harper closed the door behind me with a soft click and gave me a look like she wasn't entirely sure why she'd invited me in, or maybe she knew exactly why and didn't want to admit it out loud. I stood in the entryway holding the last grocery bag, suddenly unsure of what to do with my hands. "You don't have to stay," she said, voice gentler than before. "I know it's not part of your job." You wanted company," I said. She nodded, a small laugh escaping her lips. "Apparently I'm worse at hiding that than I thought." "You're not bad at it," I said. "You just found the one delivery girl who can read between the lines." That made her smile again, just slightly. She walked into the kitchen, barefoot and fluid, and set her wine down before unpacking a few of the groceries. "I didn't expect you to write back," she said. "I didn't expect to want to," I admitted. She glanced over her shoulder. "But you did." "Yeah. Why?" I paused, unsure how honest I was allowed to be. "Because no one ever says thank you. Not like that. Not in handwriting. Not like they mean it." She turned fully now, leaning against the counter. "I meant it. I know." The silence stretched between us, thick with things unsaid. I looked around the apartment, trying to ground myself in something familiar. The walls were white and tall, lined with shelves filled with hardcover books and quiet art. A single orchid bloomed on the windowsill, perfectly positioned to catch the light. "You live here alone?" I asked. She nodded. "For about 3 years." "You're a lawyer, right? Corporate contracts. Mergers. Very glamorous." "You say that like you hate it." "I don't hate it," she said. "I'm just tired." I nodded, understanding that more than I wanted to admit. "You know," she continued, "when I started leaving those notes, I thought it would be a one-time thing. A way to feel less invisible. I didn't think you'd ever notice. I didn't think you'd see me." "I see you now," I said, quietly. She looked at me then, really looked, and something shifted in the air. "Can I ask your name?" "Rowan." "That suits you." "And you're Julia." "That obvious?" "I looked you up," I admitted. "Law firm website. LinkedIn. The whole stalker package." She laughed, and the sound surprised us both. It was warm and unpolished, nothing like the woman in the photos. "I'm flattered." "You shouldn't be. It was the handwriting that got me, not the resume." Her smile faded, and something softer settled in its place. "Can I offer you a glass of wine?" I hesitated. "Is that allowed?" "What, legally?" "Professionally. Do you think either of us is still pretending this is professional?" I stared at her for a long beat. "I guess not." "Then stay," she said, already reaching for a second glass. "Just for a while." I stayed. I sat on her couch while she poured the wine, and when she brought it over, our fingers brushed again, and this time it felt intentional. She curled into the opposite corner, tucking her legs under her, and sipped her drink like she needed something to occupy her mouth. "You're different from what I expected," she said. "What did you expect?" "Someone in a rush. Tired. Detached. I didn't expect someone who'd talk to me like I'm not a transaction. I didn't expect someone who'd make me feel seen just by writing 7 words on a sticky note." Her expression changed, something deeper, more vulnerable. "It's been a long time since I let anyone see me." "Then maybe it's time." She looked down at her wine, then back at me. "You make that sound easy." "It's not," I said. "But it's better than being alone." She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached out slowly, her fingers brushing the back of my hand. I didn't pull away. Her touch was tentative, delicate, like she was asking a question without speaking. I answered by turning my palm up and letting her take it. Her fingers laced with mine. The contact was electric. "This is reckless," she said. "Probably," I whispered. "But I'm tired of playing it safe." She looked at me like she was memorizing my face. Then she leaned in, slow, hesitant, and paused just inches from my mouth. "If I kiss you, then you're not just writing notes anymore." Her lips met mine. Soft. Testing. Like the first word of a sentence that might change everything. And when I kissed her back, I knew this wasn't just curiosity. This wasn't a thank you. This was something waking up. When we finally pulled apart, breathless and blinking, she rested her forehead against mine. "I don't know what this is." "We'll figure it out," I said. "One grocery bag at a time." She laughed again, and this time it stayed in the room, warm and bright and real. And I knew I'd be back. Not for the paycheck. Not even for the wine. But for her. For the woman on floor 5 who thanked me like no one else ever had, and kissed me like she wanted to rewrite every rule. I didn't hear from her for 4 days. No notes. No deliveries. No accidental messages sent through the app. Just silence. 4 long, stretched out days where I checked my phone too often and reread her words on the back of that receipt like they could explain what the hell had happened between us. One kiss. That's all it was. Soft. Careful. But it had detonated something in me. Something that hadn't settled since. I could still feel the warmth of her hand. The press of her body leaned ever so slightly toward mine. The way she had exhaled like she didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until our mouths met. It hadn't been a mistake. I knew that. But I also knew her type, controlled, careful, precise. The kind of woman who measured her days in calendar alerts and her decisions in risk levels. And I was a risk. A very real one. Which made it even more confusing when her name popped back into the queue on Thursday night. I stare at my phone like it might be lying to me. Harper, J, 5th floor. 2 bags. 1 fragile. 1 chilled. I took the order, without hesitating. My hands shook as I packed it, checking each item twice. The wine was back, a red this time. And the ice cream. She'd requested oat milk vanilla bean like she remembered that I once mentioned it was my favorite. I took the stairs instead of the elevator just to give myself more time to think, to breathe, to not rehearse what I'd say. When I reached her door, my hand hovered in the air. The memory of our kiss burned through me again. How natural it had felt. How real. I knocked. 3 seconds later, she opened it. Julia Harper. Still sharp, still elegant, still every inch the woman who'd shaken me with a glance. But this time, her eyes were softer. Her hair was down. She was barefoot again, in black leggings and an oversized sweater that made her look far more human than any of her professional headshots ever had. "Hi," I said, voice low. "Hi," she echoed. For a moment, we just stood there. Neither of us moved. "You ordered groceries," I said, holding up the bags like some kind of fragile offering. "Apparently, I missed the sound of your knock," she replied. I smiled before I could stop myself. "I thought maybe you were avoiding me." "I was," she said. Then, after a beat. "Not because I wanted to. Because you kissed me?" "Because I liked it," she admitted. "Too much. And I didn't know what to do with that." I handed her the bags, and our fingers touched for the first time in days. That simple contact sent a jolt straight through me. "We don't have to figure it out right now," I said. "But maybe you could let me in again." She hesitated, then stepped aside. The apartment looked the same, calm, clean, curated. But there was a glass on the table and 2 wine glasses waiting beside it. One of them had lipstick on the rim. "Were you expecting someone else?" I asked. "Just hoping," she said. I set the groceries down. I missed this. "What part?" "All of it," I said. "The mystery. The notes. You." She exhaled, slow and careful. "I haven't stopped thinking about you. Since that night." "Same." She moved toward me, step by careful step. "You shouldn't want someone like me," she said. "I'm older. Complicated. You're bright. Beautiful. Young. You left thank you notes in grocery bags for a stranger, Julia. That's not complicated. That's romantic as hell. I'm serious, she said. This could be a mistake. Then let it be a beautiful one, I whispered. She closed the distance. Her hands came to my face, and this time when she kissed me, it wasn't hesitant. It was sure.
Certain.
Her mouth opened against mine, slow and deep, and I melted into her, gripping her sweater like I needed something to keep me grounded. We kissed until we were breathless, until my body pressed hers into the kitchen counter, and her fingers slid under the hem of my jacket like she couldn't stand the barrier anymore. But when her hand curled around my waist, she paused, pulled back. I don't want this to be just a reaction, she said, to loneliness.
To a hard day.
I want this to be real. It already is. Then stay. Not for wine. Not for a kiss. Just stay. I nodded, chest tight. Okay. We curled up on her couch, this time without music, without distractions. Just the sound of rain starting against the windows and our bodies tangled beneath a soft gray throw. She rested her head on my shoulder. I traced patterns on her arm. I used to think I had to be distant to be respected, she said. But with you, I want to be soft. Then be soft, I said. With me, you can be anything. Even scared, especially scared. She turned her face into my neck. I've wanted someone to say that to me for a long time. I held her tighter. Now you never have to ask again. And we stayed like that. Quiet.
Warm.
No pressure. No rush. Just two women who found something neither of them expected, comfort in each other's chaos. She didn't kiss me again that night. But when I left, she held my hand at the door and said, "Come back tomorrow." And I would. Over and over again. Because the girl who once delivered groceries was falling. And the woman on floor 5? She was finally ready to be caught. Julia texted me the next morning. Not through the delivery app. Not as a customer. Just her name lighting up my screen like we'd been doing this forever. You forgot your jacket. Or maybe you didn't. Either way, it's here. So come get it. I stared at the message for longer than I should have. It was casual.
Teasing.
But the subtext was loud. I want to see you again. And I did. More than anything. When I arrived at her door, she didn't make me knock. It opened before I even raised my hand. She stood there barefoot again, wearing dark jeans and a slate gray tank top that made her skin glow. Her hair was damp, like she'd just gotten out of the shower, and for the first time, she looked less like a lawyer and more like a woman at home. Comfortable.
Real.
Told you it was here, she said, holding up my jacket with a small smile. And here I thought it was just an excuse. Maybe it was both. I stepped inside, taking it from her hand. Our fingers brushed again. Every contact between us still electric, still charged like our skin hadn't stopped remembering. You want coffee? She asked. I make it better than most people expect. I'll take the risk. She moved into the kitchen, and I followed, watching her every step like I wasn't supposed to be there. Like I was still crossing a line. But she didn't seem to mind. She moved with the calm of someone who wanted to be seen, who had spent too long hiding and was finally letting herself breathe. You always play piano music in the mornings? I asked. She glanced over her shoulder. You noticed that? Hard not to. It's kind of your signature. I think I like filling silence with something beautiful, she said. Before I forget the day might have some in it. I didn't reply. I just watched her pour 2 mugs, her movements smooth and practiced, but not cold. She handed me a cup, and our fingers touched again. I sipped. Okay. You weren't lying. This is excellent.
Told you.
We stood there for a moment, leaning on opposite sides of the counter, steam rising between us. I don't usually do this, she said after a pause. Let someone in. Not just to the apartment.
But in.
You know. Yeah, I said. I do. I've built my life around control. Around keeping things in order. People at a distance. It's clean that way. And now I've got a grocery girl sleeping on my couch and stealing my coffee, and I haven't felt this unsteady in years. I smiled slowly. You say that like it's a bad thing.
It's not, she said.
It's just new. You can handle new. She stared at me across the rim of her mug. I want to kiss you again. So kiss me.
She did.
Right there in the kitchen, with the smell of coffee between us and morning light slanting across the counter. This kiss wasn't soft. It wasn't careful. It was deep, wanting. Her fingers slid into my hair, and I leaned into her, letting my hands find the small of her back, pulling her closer. She pressed into me with a kind of quiet desperation, like she'd been waiting all night for this. My back hit the edge of the counter, and her hands splayed across my ribs, holding me steady as her mouth moved against mine with a hunger I hadn't seen in her before. I gasped softly when her tongue slid against mine, and she made a sound, low, broken, that sent heat rushing down my spine. She pulled back just enough to breathe. God, she whispered, you make me feel 20 again. And you make me feel like I've finally met someone who sees me. She looked at me then with something raw in her eyes. You don't scare easily, do you? Not when I want something. And what do you want, Rowan? You, I said. Not just the notes. Not just the kisses.
You.
She let out a shaky breath, and then she was pulling me again, this time not to kiss, but to hold. Her arms wrapped around me, tight and certain, and I buried my face in her neck, breathing her in. Stay today, she said. Not just for coffee. Okay. I want to know everything. Favorite color, worst habit, first heartbreak, and I want to know yours. We spent the whole day on the floor of her living room. Coffee turned into tea into wine, questions into stories, laughter into quiet touches that meant more than any kiss. She told me she once wanted to be a poet. I told her I once thought I'd be invisible forever. She told me her father never said, I'm proud of you. I told her my mother only says it when I bring money home. She traced the freckles on my shoulder with her fingertip like they were a constellation. I mapped the curve of her back with my palm like it was the only geography that mattered. We didn't have sex. We didn't need to. What we had that day was slower,
deeper, messier, real.
And when I finally stood at the door to leave, she leaned her head against a frame and said, You're not just passing through my life, are you? Only if you let me. She reached for my hand, laced our fingers, and said, Then don't go too far. I didn't. I couldn't. Because I was already hers. And I think maybe she was already mine. The next time I saw her, she didn't let me knock. The door opened before I even reached it, and Julia pulled me inside with a look that said she hadn't stopped thinking about me since the last time I left. Her hair was down again, but this time it wasn't deliberate. It was messy, rushed, like she hadn't cared enough to fix it. She was barefoot, in black silk pajama pants and a white button-down shirt that hung loose over one shoulder, and there was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Hunger.
Not just desire. Need.
You didn't order anything, I said, closing the door behind me. Didn't have to. So, what am I delivering today? She took a step forward. You. My heart skipped. That forward now, huh? You left me waiting 3 days, Rowan. I've earned it. I was giving you space. Next time, don't. And then she kissed me. Hard.
Deep.
Her mouth urgent, her hands gripping my waist like she was anchoring herself. I responded without thinking, pressing her back against the wall as her fingers tangled in my hair. The kiss was nothing like the last one. There was no hesitation. No question. Only heat.
Want.
Electricity snapping under skin. She pulled me closer. Our bodies pressed flush, and I felt her exhale against my lips like she was letting go of every defense she'd been holding. Her hand slid beneath my jacket, fingertips tracing the bare skin at my waist. My breath hitched. Tell me if I need to stop, she whispered, lips brushing my throat.
Don't, I said.
Please don't. She didn't. She led me to the bedroom with her mouth still on mine, never breaking contact. The sheets were cool, soft, and smelled like her, fresh linen and something faintly floral. We fell onto them in a tangle of limbs and unspoken urgency. Her shirt slipped off her shoulder. My jacket hit the floor. She kissed me like she was memorizing me, piece by piece, sigh by sigh. But even as things heated, there was a tenderness under it, an ache, a reverence. Like this wasn't just about touch. It was about trust, about letting herself feel. When her hand slid under my shirt and her mouth trailed fire down my collarbone, I arched into her. "You're so warm," she breathed. "So soft." "I want this," I whispered. "I want you." She stilled for half a second, just long enough for our eyes to lock. "You already have me," she said. "That's the problem. It's not a problem if we both fall. And if we break?" I kissed her again.
Slow. Deep.
"Then we'll break together." And after that, there were no more words. Only skin. Only breath. Only the way she pulled my shirt over my head like she'd been imagining it for weeks. The way I traced her spine with my fingertips and felt her tremble. The way her voice broke when I whispered her name. We moved together like we'd done this before in dreams we couldn't remember. Every gasp, every moan, every stolen breath. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't wild. It was deliberate. Every touch intentional. Every sigh a confession. Her body pressed into mine, lips at my throat, her name on my tongue. I'd never been touched like that before. Never known someone like that. After, she laid beside me, one arm draped over my waist, her face tucked into my neck. Her breathing was slow, steady. I ran my fingers through her hair, still trying to believe she was real. "I haven't done that in a long time," she murmured. "Trusted someone like that. You make it easy to want to earn it." "You're not what I expected. You either." "Is that a good thing?" "It's a dangerous thing," I said. "But yeah, it's good." She kissed my shoulder, soft and tired. "Stay tonight. I'm not going anywhere." "Good," she whispered. "Because if you left now, I think I'd lose it." I pulled her closer. "I'm right here." "I don't know what this is," she said. "It doesn't have a name yet." "Then don't name it," I said. "Just feel it." And we did. We didn't sleep much that night. We talked in the dark, shared secrets, touched softly, laughed quietly. I found her ticklish. She found my middle name out loud and promised never to use it in public. And when I woke up with her fingers tracing my back in slow circles, I knew something had changed. This wasn't fantasy anymore. This wasn't curiosity. It was the start of something real. Something fragile. Something that might ruin us or remake us. And I couldn't wait to find out which. Julia wasn't in the bed when I woke up. Her side of the sheets was still warm, but she was gone. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd imagined the whole thing, that the night before had been a dream I'd made up out of loneliness and soft skin and too much wanting. But then I heard the sound of a cup being set down and the faint clink of a spoon against porcelain. I pulled on my shirt, padding out barefoot into the living room. She was standing by the window in her robe, hair damp, coffee in hand, her silhouette framed by the soft gray light of morning. And the way she looked, so still, so perfectly composed, made something ache in my chest. "Hey," I said softly. She didn't turn around. "You sleep okay?" "Better than I have in months," I replied, watching her carefully. She nodded, but still didn't look at me. "You left the bed." "Habit," she said. "I don't usually stay after." I walked up behind her slowly, placing a hand on her back. She flinched, not away from my touch, but like the contact surprised her. "You don't have to do the thing where you pretend this didn't happen." "I'm not pretending," she said, finally turning to face me. Her eyes were tired, guarded. "But it's easier not to look at it too closely." "Why?" "Because then I might have to admit how much I want it to happen again." "And that's a bad thing?" "It's a dangerous thing," she said. "Rowan, I'm not used to this." "To what?" "To someone looking at me like I'm not a project. Like I'm not a role they want me to perform." "I don't want anything from you," I said. "Except the truth." "The truth is I'm scared," she said. "Because I've built a life that works. It's lonely, but it's mine. And now you're here, and it's like I don't know how to breathe without checking to see if you're still in the room." "So breathe with me," I said. "Let's just figure it out as we go." She stared at me, eyes shining in a way that made my throat tighten. "I don't want to hurt you." "Then don't." "It's not that simple." "But maybe it could be," I said, "if we stop trying to define it and just let ourselves have it." She stepped forward, sliding her arms around my waist, resting her forehead against mine. I've never felt this held before, even when I'm the one doing the holding. "Then let me hold you." And I did. I wrapped my arms around her, felt her body finally relax against mine. I kissed her temple, her cheek, the corner of her mouth. I poured every ounce of patience I had into the way I touched her. Because this wasn't just about sex. This was about staying. About being the first person who didn't disappear the moment her softness showed. We spent the morning like that. Quiet. Gentle. Breakfast in silence. Fingers brushing when we passed plates. A kiss pressed to my shoulder as she cleaned up the coffee mugs. But something in her stayed distant, like part of her had already begun pulling away. When I left, she didn't kiss me goodbye. Just stood in the doorway and watched, her arms crossed over her chest. "Julia," I said, turning back. "Don't do the thing where you shut down. Not with me." "I'm trying," she whispered. "I know," I said. "Try harder." She nodded once. And I walked away not because I wanted to, but because I needed her to decide to reach back. That night, she didn't text. The next day, nothing. By the third morning, I was pacing my apartment like it might offer answers. Had I moved too fast? Had she regretted it? Or was this just what it looked like when someone who's been alone too long realizes they've let someone in and panics? I got my answer on day 4. A delivery ping. "Harper, J, 5th floor. 1 bag. 1 note." My hands trembled as I opened the order. Just basic groceries. Fruit, almond milk, a box of herbal tea. But folded between the items, nestled against the oat milk, was a handwritten note. "I don't know how to be this version of myself, Rowan, but I want to try. If you're still willing to knock." My chest burned. I reached the 5th floor in record time. When I knocked, the door opened before the sound even faded. And there she was, hair undone, eyes tired but open. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I breathed. "I was afraid you weren't coming back. I was afraid you didn't want me to." "I do," she said. "I just didn't know how to say it." "Say it now." She stepped forward, pressed her palm to my chest. "Stay." I leaned in. "Okay." And when I kissed her again, it wasn't about forgiveness. It was about choice. 2 women choosing to be brave. To stop running. To let the cracks show, and maybe, just maybe, build something through them. Being with Julia was like living in a world that moved half a beat slower. Time stretched inside her apartment in strange, beautiful ways. Coffee tasted warmer, silence felt softer, and eye contact could last forever. After that night, after the note, the knock, the kiss, she started inviting me in without hesitation. Not just into her home, but into her life. Little by little. At first, it was just dinners. Pastas she insisted on overcooking herself. Wine glasses filled and never emptied.
We talked about books.
About our mothers. About the kind of people we were when no one else was looking. Then she started texting me during the day. "Terrible meeting. Thinking of you." Or saw a woman in red pants at court and couldn't stop picturing how they'd look on you. Dangerous. And I'd laugh to myself between deliveries, rereading those lines like they were secrets she whispered into my skin. Sometimes I'd drop by even when she hadn't ordered anything, just to see her, just to remind myself this was real. And she never told me to leave. She started keeping my favorite tea in the cupboard. My toothbrush appeared in her bathroom. A sweatshirt I'd left behind one night ended up folded neatly on her bed the next day. But still, she didn't call it anything. And neither did I. Until the night she fell asleep on my chest and murmured, "I haven't let someone stay this long in years." I kissed the top of her head and whispered, You don't have to kick me out. I'm not sure I want to." The next morning, I made her coffee. She leaned against the counter, still in her robe, watching me with something that looked dangerously close to adoration. "You know," she said, "I think I'm becoming someone I don't recognize. Is that a bad thing?" "No," she whispered. I think it's exactly what I needed. Then let her grow. Only if you're still here when she's done. I'm not going anywhere, I said. But I felt it then, that twist in my chest. That low, quiet fear. Because I wasn't sure what not going anywhere meant anymore. I was still delivering groceries, still working 10-hour shifts, still calculating my tips at the end of every night to figure out how many more weeks I could afford my apartment. And Julia lived in a world of glass offices and tailored suits and wine that cost more than my electric bill. It wasn't just about attraction anymore. It was about belonging. And I didn't know if I did. One night, we were lying in her bed, tangled under a blanket, the window open to let in the sound of rain. She was tracing shapes on my bare stomach, her head resting against me. I'd just told her a story from a delivery earlier that day, something stupid involving a dog, a broken bag, and 3 avocados rolling down someone's driveway, and she'd laughed so hard she cried. But now, her voice was quiet. Do you ever feel out of place? All the time, I said. Even here? I hesitated. Sometimes. She looked up at me. Because of me? Not because of you, I said carefully. Because of what we come from. Because this. I gestured around us, at the silk sheets, the minimalist art, the wine bottle on the nightstand, was never built for someone like me. Then we'll build something new, she said. Something that fits both of us. Is that possible? It is if we're honest. So be honest with me, I said. What do you want from this? She didn't answer right away, just stared at me like she was still choosing whether or not to be brave. Then she said, I want to wake up next to someone who makes me feel human. I want to stop pretending I'm fine being alone. I want you, and I'm terrified of how badly I want you. Good, I whispered, because I want you too. All of you, not just the kisses, not just the soft version, even the complicated lawyer who shuts down sometimes. She's a mess. So am I. And I kissed her then, not with heat, but with promise, with permanence. She pulled me closer, and we stayed like that, chests pressed, legs tangled, hearts beating out confessions neither of us were ready to say out loud yet. But we both felt them. In the morning, she got a call while I was still half asleep in her bed. I listened to her shift into that sharp, composed version of herself, the one who said things like, I'll handle it personally and let's circle back tomorrow. When she hung up, she caught me watching her.
What?
You sounded like someone else. I have to be someone else out there, she said. But here, with you, I get to be me. Then I want more of this version. You have her. Not just at night. Not just behind closed doors. She froze. I saw the walls start to rise behind her eyes. You mean outside? I mean not a secret. She stepped back slightly. That's a big ask. I'm not asking for a label, I said. Just space in your life that doesn't disappear when the sun comes up.
She was quiet for a long time.
Then finally, let me try. And somehow that meant more than any yes, because she wasn't pushing me away. She was pulling me in.
Scared. Slowly.
But willingly. And I'd take that over certainty any day, because the things worth holding are the ones you choose even when it's hard. The first time Julia touched me in public, it was almost nothing. A brush of her fingers against mine as we walked out of a bookstore together, her hand lingering for a breath too long before pulling away. But my skin burned for the rest of the afternoon, because it wasn't about the touch. It was about what it meant. We'd spent weeks behind closed doors, wrapped around each other in bedsheets and candlelight, whispering things neither of us had ever dared to say before. But now, with her hand grazing mine on a city sidewalk at 3:30 p.m., surrounded by strangers and traffic and real life, it felt louder than any moan. It felt like a promise. You okay? She asked as we turned onto a quieter street. I nodded, just surprised. I told you I was trying. I know, but trying's not the same as doing. She stopped walking, turned to face me. I want to do this with you. Out here. Not just inside my walls. You sure? No, she said, honest and trembling. But I want you more than I want to be safe. I kissed her, right there on the street. Just a quick press of lips, soft and steady. And when I pulled back, her eyes were glassy. Okay, I whispered. Then let's try. But trying it turned out wasn't easy. Not when the world had 1,000 things to say. The first crack came a week later. I was in the elevator of her building, carrying an extra bag of groceries because she'd invited me over to make dinner. Her idea, not mine. And one of her neighbors stepped in. A woman in her late 40s, heels sharp, hair sharper. She looked me up and down like I was a stain she'd just noticed on her own coat. "You're the girl from the app," she said. "The delivery one." "That's me." She said nothing for a beat. Then, "You've been spending a lot of time upstairs lately." My spine stiffened. "Excuse me?"
Don't worry, she said, dry.
"I won't tell the building board. But you might want to be careful. Some of the residents don't like when service staff forget their place." The doors opened before I could reply. I walked out, blood pounding in my ears, my grip on the bag tightening so hard I nearly crushed the baguette. Julia answered the door barefoot, smiling. "You're early," but her smile faded when she saw my face. "What happened?" I told her, every word, and watched her expression shift from confusion to fury. "What was her name?" she asked. "Doesn't matter." "It does." "Not to me," I said. "But maybe it should to you." "Rowan, you can kiss me on a sidewalk, Julia. But what happens when someone in your world looks at me like that and you're standing next to me?" "I'd tell them to go to hell." "Would you?" Her silence was answer enough. I stepped back, heart thudding. This is the part where you get to decide if we're really doing this. Not just in private, but all the way. "I want to," she said, voice breaking. "I just don't know if I know how." "Then learn, or let me go." She reached for me, eyes wild.
"No."
"I don't want to lose you." "Then fight for me, not just when no one's watching." She pulled me into her arms, held me like I was slipping through her fingers. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You shouldn't have to carry the weight of my fear." I rested my forehead against hers. "And you shouldn't have to carry the shame of wanting something real." We stood there like that for a long time. Then she kissed me, deep, steady, and full of everything she hadn't said. And for that moment, I believed her. She made me pasta that night. We ate on the floor with 2 glasses of cheap wine and a playlist she made just for me. No one else, just us. But in the morning, her phone rang. Work. Real life. Her face shifted when she answered. Sharper. Controlled. When she hung up, she didn't look at me right away. "There's a firm dinner next week," she said. "A fundraiser." I nodded. "Okay. They're letting me bring someone. And, do you want to come?" I stared at her.
Blinked.
"Seriously?" "Yes." "As what?" She stepped closer. "As mine." I swallowed hard. "Are you ready for that?"
"No," she said.
"But I've never been ready for anything that mattered." And I said yes. Because I didn't care what people whispered in elevators. I didn't care about the stares or the judgment or the lines we were supposed to stay inside. I cared about her. About the way she looked at me when I wasn't trying to be anything. About the way she kissed me like I was the only truth she trusted. And if she was willing to risk it, so was I. Julia picked out the dress for me. Soft blue, long sleeves, subtle neckline. Elegant but not flashy. It came in a garment bag with a note pinned to the hanger. "I want them to see like I do.
J."
I stared at those words for a long time before trying it on. And when I looked at myself in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize the girl staring back. She looked like someone who belonged, like someone who had something to lose. The fundraiser was at a private venue uptown. All glass walls and expensive silence. As we stepped out of the car, Julia reached for my hand. I thought she'd hesitate. That she'd do the thing where she looked over her shoulder first. But she didn't. She just laced our fingers together, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You could," she asked softly. I nodded. "I don't feel like me, but I'm good." "You look stunning." "You say that like you're not the one making jaws drop tonight." "I don't care about them," she whispered. "I care about you." Inside, The air was thick with polished conversation. The kind of place where no one raises their voice and everyone's smile means something else entirely. Julia kept her hand on the small of my back as we walked in, introduced me to partners, associates, even one of the senior board members, most of whom blinked in surprise when they realized who I was. I kept my head high. I smiled. I played the part. Until the whispers started. They didn't say my name, but I heard the words. Delivery girl. Younger. Temporary. Rebound. Julia noticed. I saw it in her shoulders, the way they stiffened every time someone tilted their head just a little too much. But she didn't flinch. She stayed beside me, steady, until one woman, older, sharp as a dagger in navy silk, approached with a smile too smooth to be kind. Julia, she said, we haven't been properly introduced to your guest. This is Rowan, Julia said without pause. She's with me. Of course, the woman said. You do always surprise us. Such refreshing choices lately. She's not a choice, Julia said, voice cool. She's someone I love. My heart stopped. The woman blinked, taken off guard, and moved on with a nod. Julia looked at me then, like she'd said too much, too soon. You okay? She whispered. Did you mean that? I asked, stunned. Yes, she said. I don't know when it happened. I just know it's true. I stepped closer, emotion catching in my throat. Then say it again. I love you, she said. I love you, and I'm scared, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I don't want to do it without you. I kissed her, right there, in the middle of a ballroom full of powerful people. And this time, I didn't care who watched. We didn't stay much longer. The car ride home was quiet, but not tense. Her hand rested on my thigh the entire way, thumb tracing slow circles that made me feel like the only person in the world. Back at her apartment, she kicked off her heels, pulled me to the couch, and curled into me like she'd been waiting all night to exhale. You okay? I asked, echoing her earlier question. She nodded against my chest. That was the scariest thing I've done in years. You did it anyway. Because you were next to me. I held her tighter. I've never had someone say that about me. You've never let anyone get close enough, she murmured. I know. But with you, I know, she whispered. We didn't sleep that night, not in the usual sense. We lay tangled on the couch, bare feet tucked under blankets, the city lights leaking through the windows. We talked until our voices went hoarse. About what came next, about moving in, about whether we'd survive the scrutiny, about how love could exist between a girl who delivers groceries and a woman who writes contracts worth millions. We're too different, I said at one point. But maybe that's why it works, she said. Because you remind me how to feel, and I remind you you're allowed to dream bigger. I smiled, kissed her forehead. We're kind of a mess. The best kind, she said. And when she fell asleep against me, her breath warm on my neck, her hand wrapped in mine, I knew we were real. Messy.
Brave.
Beautifully unprepared. And absolutely real. I moved in on a Sunday. It wasn't planned. Not really. Julia didn't ask, and I didn't suggest it. But somehow, piece by piece, it happened. First it was my toothbrush. Then my worn-out hoodie she kept stealing. Then a drawer. Then a spare key. And one day, we both looked up from our coffee mugs and realized, this is home now. The last box I carried in was filled with mismatched mugs and books with cracked spines. I set it down in our living room and looked around. Nothing had really changed except everything had. The couch wasn't just hers anymore. The bed smelled like both of us. There was tea on the shelf only I drank, a lopsided ceramic bowl I'd made in high school, now holding her keys by the door. And when Julia stepped behind me and wrapped her arms around my waist, her chin resting on my shoulder, I felt it in my bones. This wasn't temporary. You're officially a resident of 5C, she murmured. I hope you're ready for the board meetings and building gossip. I already met the building gossip, I said. She gave me a death glare in the elevator last week. Julia laughed into my neck. Oh, Beverly. I'll bring her wine. She'll forget she ever disapproved. I don't care if she approves. You don't. I turned, facing her fully. Julia, I've been judged my whole life. For how I live, for what I earn, for where I'm from. But when I walk through that door and see you, none of it matters. Because I get to be your person. And that's enough for me. Her eyes shimmered. You always say the things I don't know how to. That's why you keep me around, I whispered. She kissed me, slow and soft, the kind of kiss that doesn't need fire to burn. And when she pulled away, she said, we should celebrate. With wine. With you. The rest of the afternoon disappeared in skin and laughter and the kind of kisses that tasted like a beginning. We made love slowly, reverently, like we were planting roots with our fingertips. She whispered things into my mouth, promises, fears, truths she'd never told anyone. And when I told her I loved her again, she said it back without hesitation. Later, we lay tangled in the sheets, limbs warm and lazy, her fingers drawing soft circles on my shoulder. Do you think it'll always be like this? She asked. No, I said honestly. But that's okay. I don't want perfect. I want real. I want to fight with you over laundry and cry with you when things get hard and hold your hand in the grocery store even when you're mad at me. You want to grocery shop with me? It's full circle, don't you think? She laughed. We should open our own service. You deliver the goods. I write the terms and conditions. Oh, sexy. Deadlines are my kink, she teased. I rolled on top of her, pinning her wrist to the bed. You're lucky you're beautiful. You're lucky I write thank you notes. Don't remind me. That sticky note ruined my whole sense of professionalism. Her smile softened, and her voice dropped. It saved me. I leaned down, brushing my lips against hers.
No.
You saved you. You just let me see you while you did it. She closed her eyes. I was so lonely, Rowan. I know, I whispered. So was I. And somehow, that made the silence between us feel sacred. Over the next few weeks, we started building a life that felt like ours. Mornings were filled with shared routines, coffee, stolen kisses, headlines read aloud with half-focused attention. Nights meant cooking disasters, Netflix background noise, and curling into each other like gravity had plans for us. She started calling me her girlfriend in front of people. I started picking up flowers for her, just because. Her colleagues got used to seeing me at firm events. My mom finally called and said, she sounds serious. I smiled and said, she is. We weren't perfect. We had arguments. We miscommunicated. One time she shut down after a rough client meeting, and I took it personally. Another time I panicked about money and she tried to fix it instead of listening. But we came back to each other. Always. And one night, as we sat on the fire escape with ice cream in mismatched bowls, she reached into her robe pocket and handed me a folded piece of paper. I opened it. It was a note. Simple. Familiar handwriting. Just one sentence. Thank you for knocking. I looked up at her, heart in my throat. You kept writing them? She nodded. But this one felt different. Because now, I get to say it to your face. I set the paper down, took her face in my hands, and kissed her like I was writing the rest of our story with my mouth. Because I knew then, what we had started quietly, secretly, had become something solid. Something lasting. Something true. I used to deliver groceries. Now I deliver flowers to her office, coffee to her bedside, my heart, every damn day, into her hands. And I do it again, over and over, because thank you notes brought me to her, and she made me stay. Thank you so much for your support, whether it's by liking, commenting, sharing, or sending your super thanks. You make all the difference here on the channel. See you in the next video.